So we'll be comparing the camera performance of the Galaxy S20 with that of the S20 FE. Now this is already being recorded on the rear camera of both the phones, so you know which one shoots better video. I'll also keep switching the audio source so you know which one records audio better. Now to understand the overall camera performance between the two, we'll be taking pictures using the regular lens, the ultra-wide lens, some portrait shots and some shots in low light mode. Now both the S20 and the S20 FE have the same primary camera as per specs. But let's see if they actually reproduce the same quality of pictures as well. So I started by taking photos in broad daylight, and I was quite surprised to see that majority of the photos turned out to be almost identical. The only two major differences I saw is that the S20 handled dynamic range and saturation slightly better than the S20 FE. And so you'll see that the trunk on the right side with the S20 is slightly more contrasty. But if you look at this picture, the differences are almost negligible. I mean, I really can't tell which one is better. And even in this picture, for example, they look almost identical to me. Now here, if you look at the S20 picture, the leaves are a lot greener, whereas the S20 FE, the leaves look a little flat and dull. In this one, again, very identical, but the S20 may have had a slightly better dynamic range here. In this one, I don't really see any difference. Let me know what you think. In this one, the shadows are definitely more accurate with the S20 than the S20 FE. In this one particularly, the S20 also handled the exposure better than the S20 FE. If you look at the S20 FE image, it's a little overexposed with the sun shining directly on the lion. And so to be really honest, I think the S20 is just very marginally, very slightly better than the Galaxy S20 FE when it comes to dynamic range, handling exposure, and slightly more punchy or saturated photos when it comes to the S20. Now, all of this should not be very surprising to you because, both the phones have the same camera, at least the same primary camera. They have the same processor and they employ the same processing algorithm to deliver all these pictures to you. The minor differences that you see, they may even be fixed by Samsung through a software patch on the Galaxy S20 FE camera. So these are all pictures taken outdoors, but let's see what happens when you go indoors. Does the quality still hold up and look as similar? And no surprises here either. I mean, the indoor pictures taken by the primary camera are even more identical than it was with the case of outdoor pictures. So they're really, really similar, except for maybe this one because there's still some light coming from outdoors. So you will see that the S20 has done a very slightly better job at dynamic range. But other than that, very similar pictures. Also, I'll make all of these images available for you to download. The link to download these photos will be in the description below. I'll also categorize all these images so you can compare them and evaluate for yourself. And so you don't have to depend on what I say or what I show. I think the best way is to just see it for yourself. And as I've said before, the primary camera lens in both these phones are the same. And hence the pictures that come off when you click pictures using these phones are pretty much going to be identical, and that is the case. So yeah, Samsung is not wrong when they say that you get flagship camera experience or flagship photography experience with the Galaxy S20 FE. That's what they mean because they've used the S20 flagship camera module in the S20 FE. But that's not true for the ultra-wide and the telephoto lens. Alright, so that was the primary lens, and now let's talk about the ultra-wide lens on both the phones. But first, just to highlight, I'm shooting now on the front-facing cameras of both the phones so you can compare the quality of video and audio. Alright, now coming to the ultra-wide lens, the Galaxy S20 has a slightly bigger pixel size. Apart from that, both the lenses on both the phones are very similar. But is that difference in pixel size good enough when it comes to the actual output of pictures when shots are taken? And just to prove that point, here are some samples that I took using the ultra-wide lens in both the cameras. Just so similar. I mean, there's just no way of saying that one is better over the other, and it shouldn't be really. And just in very few cases is where the dynamic range of the Galaxy S20 is very slightly better than that of the Galaxy S20 FE. And hopefully Samsung would be able to fix that with a software update, or maybe not, I'm not too sure. But again, the difference is so minor that it doesn't really matter. So have a look at these pictures, and again, as I said, they're all available for you to download, so definitely evaluate by yourself. Now, given that both the cameras have the same primary lens, The portrait shots or pictures taken using live focus mode should yield the same output. After all, it's more of a camera software and an image processing tactic. And so here are the samples using the live focus mode or the portrait mode on both the phones. And I have to say that the S20 FE actually stood out slightly better. The pictures are slightly brighter. As you can see here, clearly the one on the S20 is not as good and the S20 FE was just bright. But the difference is negligible in terms of background blurring and, the clarity. Even in this picture, the S20 FE feels better to me for some reason. And here again, it's slightly brighter than the Galaxy S20. And so camera-wise, the Galaxy S20 FE is really standing up to its price. And just to really try out everything, I also started taking some shots as the light went down. So, in low light, I wanted to see if there were any differences in terms of image processing or how the cameras behaved. But again, nothing surprising. As you can see, the dynamic range is slightly better on the S20 as it has been across all other photos that I've been talking about. But otherwise, the picture quality remains to be the same. The way it handles exposure, the light, the colors, they all look so similar. So I think it's a really stand-up camera array on both the phones. They're really identical. And I'm pretty happy that the Galaxy S20 FE, despite its price, delivers on that flagship level camera experience. It's just great. Now, I've not compared the telephoto lens experience on both the phones, which is actually where a significant difference lies in terms of specs. But the reason I didn't do that is because I don't think as many people use the telephoto lens on a day-to-day basis. I mean, majority of the people just fire open their app, which is in the regular 12 megapixel primary lens mode. They take up a photo and that's it. That's 95% of anyone's camera experience. But surely, if you think you disagree to this or you have a different point of view, let me know in the comment section what you think. Okay, so conclusion time. The Galaxy S20 FE offers almost an identical flagship camera experience to you at a much lower price point, making it more value for money in my opinion. Now, if you look at the rear cameras, both the phones shot almost identical pictures, very, very minor differences. Of course, leaving aside the fact that the telephoto lens on the S20 is much better, but I discarded that for this comparison because I do really feel that it's not as frequently used, so I didn't consider that for the comparison. But when it comes to the front-facing camera, the 10 megapixel S20 camera is definitely better both from a picture and video perspective as compared to the S20 FE. It's got more brightness, it's got more color accuracy, it's punchier, and even the audio recording did seem to be a little bit more, it did cancel out noise better than the S20 FE did. Anyway, that's my take on the Galaxy S20 versus the S20 FE camera performance. If you've got any questions, feel free to drop them in the comment section below. And as always, guys, don't forget to drop a like, hit that subscribe button and that bell icon. I'll see you guys in the next one.